everybody, what's going on? Welcome to another exciting episode of Shane Loves Games. I'm Shane and I love games. And today we are talking about how I got started in tabletop role-playing and that kind of experience and kind of how it's brought me here. Literally 27 years later. 28 years later. I've been playing for a long time. What are we talking about? Well, I first started when I was, I want to say 11 or 12. I had a group of friends in elementary school going into junior high, and we were all military brats, so having the same group of friends for a long period of time was pretty rare, but we all managed to have our parents basically get either stay in the same base or just get posted within the base. So we stayed friends for a very long time. And after we'd known each other for a few years, I distinctly remember walking around the field during recess or lunch break or whatever, and one of my friends was like, hey, maybe you should come and play this game with us on Saturday night. I think you'd really like it. And I was like, well, why? What is it? And they're like, well, we know you really like those choose-your-own-adventure and fighting fantasy and Lone Wolf books. And it's kind of like that, but it's a little bit more freeform. And my one friend, his dad, was the Dungeon Master, and he'd been playing since the late 70s, early 80s. He'd been playing forever, and he was running a group for his son and friends, me. So I got introduced into Dungeons & Dragons through my friend's dad, and he was our first Dungeon Master, and it was very, very interesting and very surreal for me because I'd never seen anything like this before, where I was in charge, literally had free reign of doing whatever I wanted to do, or at least try to anyways. And that was a really big thing, and that's what really captured me. My first character was a thief. It was dumb. The first thing I ever tried to do was steal from my buddy who had invited me to this game. That character didn't last long, and then I finally... There was a lot to it. There's a lot to those original... Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition is what I started with. And eventually I would make another character named Bruce of Doubleday, who was a fighter, a little bit more my speed at the time, and I had that character for a very long time. And my parents didn't really get it. Like, I would try to explain how the game was played, and the only thing at the end of the day was small town Saturday night, tween, teenager. I was in my friend's house with parental supervision, and all I wanted for Christmas was books. So, what more could your parents ask for, really? And I kept the same group of friends for a very long time. In fact, even now, one of the guys that I played with in high school, who I actually met in, like, the 3rd grade, I see him once a month. We go for coffee, hang out. And those friendships stayed that long, and we continued to play as often as we could throughout the years. This is my actual very first player's handbook. This is the second, they call this kind of 2.5. They reskinned it and resold it, but this is the 2nd edition rules, and it's a little bit, they kind of made it a little bit easier to find stuff. They prettied it up a little bit compared to the other one, but it's essentially the same game. And this is literally the same book that I've had for, this says it was published in 95. I know that I probably got it earlier than that. The spine is just gone in it. Yeah, so I mean, when I was a kid, that was how I got started. It was just simply, I happened to luck into a game. Now, this was long before the internet, and so getting more books in rural Canada was quite the feat. Our local bookstore had a very small bookcase of stuff, and they generally just had like the player's handbooks and a few other things, but if you wanted something, you could go in. You had the ISBN, and they could order it for you, and it would take a month or longer, but eventually you could get it. The other way that we used to get stuff was to if our parents were going, we could hitch a ride into the city, which was about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes away, and there were several game stores in the city, and we would try and hit as many as we could just to see what the different stuff was out there. The other big thing about starting pre-internet was you didn't know if a book was good or not until you got it home. And you could end up with something really bad. I know once upon a time I really wanted the Starfleet Battles game, and I was like 14, and I had my heart set on it, and it was not fun when you're 14. So there was that. So the other thing too was we were all military kids, so I mean we weren't poor, but the money that we got was precious, and when we spent it on books, and if we found something that was fun, we played it until the wheels fall off. I could pretty much go into Undermountain myself, and within the first few levels, I would be alright finding my way through. Just because we would make new characters and go in again, make new characters and go in again. I probably know my way around Waterdeep pretty well. And that would continue on until we would reach adulthood. And we played together from like the 6th, 7th grade right up until we all graduated high school. And even then, we kind of all went our separate ways for a few years, and then managed to get back together, and then we continued to play. And we would move, and I would find different groups. I went to university for a year. I found a gaming group there and played throughout university. I would stay within my hometown for a few years after that, and I had a few friends who stuck around too, and managed to keep gaming regularly on Sundays, and we managed to have a couple of groups on the go so we could play different things and different game styles. Eventually I would move halfway across the country and start over, essentially. I didn't really know anyone when I moved to Winnipeg, and I met some people through work, and again I ended up having two groups on the go at the same time. One was playing 4th edition, because it was the only game in town once upon a time, and the other group, we would play Star Wars, we would play 3.5, we would do all sorts of different stuff, and they were really good friends, and I kept in contact, and still today, we're trying to get a online game going with my buddy Thomas, and a couple of the people that I played with in Winnipeg. And then when I moved here, some of those guys that I played with originally in elementary and high school, junior high, are here, so I managed to pick up there, but I also met some other friends through work, and we've been gaming together pretty much since then, different gaggles of groups, and even now I have my group that I run every Tuesday night. We're in another D&D group. It's just been this thing that has been a real constant in my life for, obviously 25 years at least, if not more. So it's really important to me to have this outlet of creativity, but also another way of getting friends and getting like-minded people together and having fun and creating a story together, like I said in my kind of how tabletop gaming works video. Even to this day, it's still a very important part of me, and it's a big reason why I started this channel, and it's a big reason why I'm trying to spread the word. And tabletop role-playing doesn't need any help right now. It's the most popular that it has ever been, even back when it first came out in the early 80s. I think with the use of the internet and being able to have access no matter where you are, if you end up having to get something through like an Amazon or Chapters or eBay, it has an audience unheard of in the 80s, and I think that's fantastic. And I think the more people that we can get rolling dice, it'll just keep getting better. And someone new to the game might bring something that no one has ever thought of before, and will skyrocket it even further. I'm so happy with where tabletop role-playing is right now. And when I think back to when I first started in the Dark Ages, before the internet, when it would take months for me to get a new book, or something new, or to have to gamble on whether or not a book was good or not. That can happen, and you don't really need to worry about that now. You have access to this giant infrastructure that is the internet, and just find out if a game is for you or not. And you can find other players, like instantaneous. You can play online with people, and the thought of that, like being able to play with my friend Hisham in Malaysia, is an option. We can do that. We haven't when we should, but there's a little bit of time difference. But those options are there, and 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it wasn't. You had to find, maybe those couple of kids in your high school that maybe you didn't want to play with, but if you wanted to play, you had to, or else nobody really got it. And it's come such a long way from, like, my poor little book here. That's all the corners are yellow and there's Cheeto stains, and it's to where we're sitting at now with companies and online people, and things like Penny Arcade and Critical Role getting official supplements it's massive. It's huge, and someone who's been part of this community for long before it was cool. I'm really excited to see where it goes next. I also posted this as a multiple choice question on my Instagram, and you can follow me at Shane Loves Games. I'm also on Twitter at Shane Loves Games. I know, original. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you some idea as to where I'm coming from for tabletop and what it was like when I was a kid, back in my day before the internet. If you want to play, if you've never played a tabletop role-playing game, Google, it's your friend. If you're really hurting for somebody to get you going, just leave a message, leave a comment. Tell all your friends about me. But that's gonna be it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm Shane. I love games. And just remember, there's always a bigger fish.